Before we get into this week's podcast, I got to tell you about the people that make this show possible. Like Johnstone Supply in Troy, helping people across upstate New York for decades now. They can help you find that AC unit you're looking for to stay cool all summer long. The spot for you is Johnstone Supply in Troy. You stop in, you say hello to their great staff, and they will help you find an AC unit that you're looking for to stay cool all summer long. Whatever it might be, whether it's maintenance to the one that you have, whether it's just an upgrade that you want, competitive prices, you can find it right there, 6th Avenue in Troy, with our friends over at Johnstone Supply in Troy. Give them a call today, 518-272-5922. 518-272-5922. That is the number to get a hold of our friends over at Johnstone Supply in Troy. We've been working with them from Gozilla Media's launch till now. We want to hope that you could support them this summer. More time for that number, 518-272-5922. Stop in 6th Avenue. Grab some tools as well. Always competitive prices for those summer projects. And check them out on social media, Johnstone Supply NY. You head on to Facebook, you search that. You're going to find all the updates that you need so you can stay up to date with our friends at Johnstone Supply in Troy. One more time, 6th Avenue. And on Facebook, Johnstone Supply NY. Find that AC unit and more that you're looking for this summer at Johnstone Supply in Troy. Let's get into this week's edition of Guys on the Go. Let's lead off with a wide variety of topics here for New York baseball. Our visual side, hang with us. You might see the graphics jump around a little bit between the Yankees and the Mets. Audio side, appreciate you as always. So let's start with the Subway Series, though. Yankees and Mets, exactly what you wanted. Starling Marte steps up when he needs to in big clutch situations. Aaron Judge stays hot. Back and forth, competitive games, playoff feel, everything you want as a baseball fan when you get the Subway Series. So that happens. And then the teams move on. They head towards the deadline. And now post-Subway Series, you get the New York Yankees, who are very active, as they always are. We're going to start with the Yankees here. And the New York Mets getting some additions and not needing to be as active. The New York Yankees dumped Joey Gallo. And when Joey Gallo was signed by the Texas Rangers, most people thought this is exactly what the Yankees need, right? Like, he fits this team, a home run hitting outfielder who strikes out a lot. Remember, that's basically what Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge were, home run hitting outfielders who struck out a lot. All right, just add Gallo. So now you have nothing but power, and you just hope he hits home runs. Look, when I moved out here to Albany in comparison to Syracuse, I thought it was too cliche, this take, and New York City people hear this all the time, but there are certain people who can't play in New York. Now, when I hear that, I think, well, wait, the football teams, oh, God, I can't believe I'm doing this point. The football teams, the Giants and the Jets technically play in New Jersey, so that doesn't really hold up. The Knicks haven't been relevant. The Rangers, the Islanders, they're always not at the top of the conversations, but does it really matter for the Yankees and the Mets that you can't play in New York? The first true example I saw here in the Capital Region was Sonny Gray. Guy became an all-star pitcher after he left New York. Lance Lynn got better after he left New York. And then you add now Joey Gallo, whose career is not over by any stretch of the imagination. Joey Gallo can still go out and have a really good career, but it didn't work. It didn't make sense. He had to go. Frankie Montas. I like calling him Montas. Put that little stank to his name. Look, he's just been an innings eater out in Oakland. That is a tongue twister. Innings eater in Oakland. But now he's dealt from the A's to the Yankees. He's going to find his spot 5th in the rotation. May not get a lot of postseason starts, but he's an arm that the Yankees have now that's improved the overall starting rotation. The Yankee franchise, summer in and summer out, is always aggressive at the trade deadline. You know how much fans would love for their team, like as if it was Madden or MLB The Show or NBA 2K, that, hey, would you like to make a trade before the deadline? And you hit yes and see what you can do. That's Brian Cashman in real life. So the New York Yankees are in a better spot than they were a week ago because Brian Cashman stays aggressive and makes those moves. Did I even mention Andrew Benintendi, the Kansas City Royals slugger, who's now in the lineup too? It's a really good Yankee team. Brian Cashman put that team in position to make a run right now. And oh, by the way, before we talk about the Mets, let us not forget about Aaron Judge, who's been talked about a lot here on Guys on the Go throughout the spring and the summer because he continues to go in the storylines. I know I had to take a few months ago about Yankee fan needs to be careful because if you don't pay Judge and he continues to play well, the franchise is going to root against him. He had a stretch where he had a home run in 10 of the last 12 games. The last check for the math, and it might be closer to 65 now, but earlier in the week he was on pace for 67 home runs. And I was going to do the whole take of whether or not people will consider that to be the true home run record, which, yeah, I think a lot of fans will. Consider that the true home run record, not Bonds', not McGuire's, but Judge's. When do we start talking about that as a potential? When is that a real thing? When can it be the summer chase? Maybe baseball fans feel a little cheated by 1998. But that's what Aaron Judge is at with the success he's had in the Yankees. Now, for the New York Mets, deGrom's back. A year plus, you've been waiting for your ace. You've been waiting for the guy who takes over games for you. Finally, Jacob deGrom is back after 391, I believe, is the number that deGrom had waited for. It was okay. Came back against the Nationals. Kept him under 60 pitches. That's what you want. Scherzer's back. You got your two aces. The offense is doing well. Pete Alonso is smashing the Nationals this week. Mets fans, you're in first place. You've got your two pitchers back. Francisco Lindor's hitting the ball well, especially in clutch spots. Yeah. There you go, Mets fans. So if you're a New York baseball fan, it can't get much better than this until the postseason. The Yankees are active at the deadline. Judge is on a home run derby chase. deGrom and Scherzer are back in the rotation. The lineup's doing well. The NL East is competitive. New York sports fans, it is getting better and better all summer long as you root on your teams. Let's talk about the Albany Empire. The Empire punched their ticket to the 2022 National Arena League Championship game. They're going to be hosting the NAL Championship. It is now 3 consecutive seasons when the Albany Empire took the field that the Albany Empire will be playing for a championship. 2019, the AFL won it at home on their home field. 2021, in an interesting COVID season, the Empire won, and now 2022, the Empire have a chance to do it again. The game itself was awesome. One of my favorite games I've ever been able to be a part of, both from the sideline perspective, being on the on-field promotions team in the early days of the Empire, to now being in the broadcast booth with Andrew Santillo. And I guess I'll break news now. Tim Drawbridge is going to be on the call for the championship game on the 13th. That game, Jacksonville was in it, competitive in the first half. It felt talent versus talent, just as Coach Manasseh spotted in the pregame show that Albany was better. But one team, that second half storyline was the turnover. Could something happen? If you're a casual fan of indoor football, this is where it gets interesting, that second half of how do you play this? Is it a pick? A forced fumble? Do teams start getting smarter with the clock? Is it always going to be that last team who has possession going for the win? Well, there's where we sit right there, right? Because Albany gets up 7 with less than 40 seconds to go, and the Jacksonville Sharks are going to get the football back potentially with the final possession of the game. Now, what Jacksonville could do, you just did the math. Well, if they score a touchdown, they're down by 1 on the road for a chance to go to a championship. They could likely have gone for 2, gone for the win, and maybe it punched their ticket to the championship. Instead, because of the rule in the NAL, Orozco, the kicker, goes for the deuce, a 2-point play off the kickoff. If your kicker can put it through the uprights, and knocks it down. I've called it throughout the week the most influential and biggest play in the history of the Albany Empire, and I will stick by that take because as fantastic as Darius Prince has been, and players of the past like Malachi Jones and Tommy Grady, Boom Boom Benson, Brandon Cisse, still part of this roster. Like, you could run through Tevin Homer's pick in the AFL championship. Look, we could run through the plays that have been influential and big and huge and everything else. But when the season was potentially on the line, when the Albany Empire needed a boost, who did they go to? Their kicker. And he knocked it down. Not just the game-winning field goal, because we've seen that spot time in and time out before in football, college, high school, the NFL. When you had to risk it, when you had a point attempt to potentially change the season, put your team in the championship, Mark Orozco stepped up, delivered in that play. A kick was the loudest I'd heard the MVP arena all season long. Go check out the replay. Everybody gets on their feet. Even some fans before chant deuce, 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 deuce to knock it down. And now we get the championship game. It feels like I should save the preview for next week, which I'm probably going to do. I'll save the preview for next week, but those storylines are so good. They're so tasty. They're so juicy. Oh, it made me hungry right there. Of what we're going to get between the Albany Empire and the Carolina Cobras in the Capital Region. If you have not watched an Empire game, this is the broadcast to be a part of. Check it out on YouTube if you're listening outside of the Capital Region. If you're in the Capital Region, come on now. Albany Empire, NAL.com. Give the ticket office a call. You're going to hear all the info as you want throughout the week. leading up to the championship. Albany Empire, go out and support them. Be a part of that awesome championship atmosphere inside the MVP Arena Saturday, August 13th. Let's talk about Deshaun Watson, shall we? Before you fast forward, before you zoom through it, hang with me. Look, I know there are certain topics each week in sports that people just get fatigued and nauseated. They don't want to hear it again. They don't want to hear takes again. Trust me, give me like 60 seconds. If you like my take, hang with me. Or if it's interesting and unique and some way to think about it, great. Because here's what pissed me off about the Deshaun Watson stuff. And I'm talking about the coverage, not the alleged and allegations and everything else, which you should be bothered by. But what happened in the sports media world following the suspension of Deshaun Watson for 6 games by a judge who was not Roger Goodell? Oh my God. It was everybody's how can they do that? It's too short. Deshaun Watson deserves more. Blah, blah, blah. Look, if that's your true, honest, real take, I'm not mocking you with that. But it was so obvious. But whatever the number was, 6, 7, 8, it did not matter. People were going to complain and say it wasn't long enough. And it's not even because, again, of the crime. It's because nobody wants to stand out and go the opposite way. Nobody wants to have a different opinion. Nobody wants to offend anybody. Nobody wants to seem like the bad guy. Nobody wants to get aggregated. Because that's what happens now, whether it be ESPN, whether it be Fox, social media, bars. It doesn't matter the entity of who's talking about Deshaun Watson. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. That if you don't have the take of, it's disgusting what he did, how dare the NFL only give him 6 games, and if you think any other way, you're a racist, or you hate women, or you're pro-sexual abuse. Whoa, 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 whoa. How the hell did that happen? Because the number was 6? Because the judge looked through past suspensions involving guys like Johnny Manziel, who got a domestic altercation, and Zeke Elliott, but those guys did not get charged with a crime, so they said, oh, okay, like, here's the standard set. Let's figure this thing out. And they decided to do it, and then people are still pissed off. Look, this goes way further back, too. The stories that we're talking about tonight as we're taping this is that the NFL has suggested the judge that Watson be suspended for the entire year. That's not true. Like, it's a lie, guys. This whole thing is a lie. Like, it's a great public relations dance. I wish the strings were out watching the people dance like puppets to believe the NFL nonsense. Dude, this goes back to the Houston thing in 2021. Like, some of this is not even hard to figure out. Why did Deshaun Watson sit out in 2021? Because Houston wanted to trade him? Because he said he wouldn't play for the Texans again? Okay. You could go with that take if you really believe it, but is that really the truth? Like, do you honestly, truly believe that? Like, oh, the NFL is investigating Watson. There's your answer. The NFL had Deshaun Watson sit out in 2021 because it was a convenient excuse. Hey, we're going to have you sit on the sidelines here because it benefits the league and it doesn't make you look as bad. So once you come back, you'll probably get a smaller suspension, but I think it's better for everybody if you just don't play this season. We don't need the bad backlash. You don't need it for your career. You don't need it for the PR. The Texans don't need to have a trade asset potentially get injured. None of it makes sense. Okay. That's what happened. Right? Like, this goes way, way back in the timeline of this. One more time, McNair, right? Who's the owner of the Texans? Somehow, once Deshaun Watson demanded a trade, then the massage parlor stories started to come out. I still feel like there's a connection there with Houston and Watson because the timing of that is matching. So Deshaun Watson sits out a year. It's decided on behind the scenes that that's what's going to happen. It just feels too obvious. He gets to 6 games, and everybody cries and says, Watson's the worst. He's this, he's that. If you truly, in your heart of heart, thinks he should get 8, 10, 12 a season, okay. I mean, I have to sit down with you and ask, like, what happens if he actually got charged with the crime? Is he done for 2 years, 3 years? What if he actually, like, we could prove it? What's the crime then? What if it was 6 women? What if it was 10? See, that part gets a little creepy and weird. But if you believe that, you believe that. Okay. It's not like a who's the greatest Mount Rushmore best players. That's a different argument that I don't even want to debate with. But what it's more about is what sports media has become. Like, I wanted a different opinion. I just wanted somebody to be like, okay, like 6 is what they decided. That's it. Shout out to Levesque, who always makes an appearance and somehow God's in the go when we have our sports conversation. He's like, everyone whined and bitched and complained about Roger Goodell being the judge, jury, and executioner. So they finally said, you know what? That's not fair. Goodell shouldn't have that much power. Let's let somebody else do it. Somebody else did it. They didn't like the decision. Like, oh, what a terrible decision. What the hell? Goodell didn't do it. So that's the thing. Am I demanding the NFL suspend Watson for a full year? No. 10 games, 12 games. Am I the worst person in the world if I tell you I think 6 is fine? Like, that's what it is. It's going to be 6. If this goes back to way further stuff, back to the Zeke Elliott thing, to the Ray Rice thing, to the Greg Hardy thing. I know someone will say those are all different, apples and oranges in comparison to all those. But what I'm saying is that, like, this isn't what the NFL is equipped for. It's hard for me as a fan and someone who covers the sport to be like, 12 games, a season, lifetime ban. When it comes to actual crimes, when it comes to people getting arrested for things, I don't have that type of background or understanding of law. Now, if you told me Calvin Ridley bet on the NFL, which he did, yeah, that's completely different. People just went for the lowest possible hanging fruit of, seriously? He went on his phone and bet on a game. The other guy went out and abused all these women. He got let. What? Like, yeah. The integrity of the game, guys. Like, you have to understand that if that ever happens again, people won't believe the product. The NFL will never be believed again. So that's my take on Deshaun Watson. 6 is fine for me. The guy sat out of the season. This is all being worked on from behind the scenes. That's it. Like, don't be so easily manipulated. Which, by the way, I was going to squeeze this in right here, too. Conspiracy theory stuff I don't believe. No chance in hell, Vince McMahon, we'll get to him later, they took out the film thing out of the contract from Kyler Murray. There's no chance. Like, it became a headline. How did it get out there, which I'm fascinated by? And all of a sudden, 2 days later, like, well, you know, we actually took that out. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You didn't like the backlash from what happened from it. So I don't believe it for a second they took it out until they show it to me. I don't just, why? Oh, we just said, oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense. Now they took it out. Okay, let's all back off on Kyler Murray. Like, that's all they had to say. And they did it. And everybody bought it. Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, you probably took it out. Can I see the contract? Lies. Lies, lies, lies. So, Deshaun Watson, 6 games. I guess I'll be the bad guy and say it's fine for me. He'll be an impactful player when he comes back for Cleveland. Cleveland knew if they were made a trade for a guy that it was not going to be an entire season. This is all behind-the-scenes stuff that we don't know that we probably would love to know. And the same goes for Kyler Murray and not watching film. Credit to the ESPN college football stuff because they got me with their headline on their homepage this past Wednesday about potential ways in which you could adjust college football to benefit the sport for the future. We're talking about dates and playoff extensions and when you hand out awards and rivalry weeks and how to help out mid-majors and everything else. It's a very long article. At least it took me a long time to read. And if you're not a college football fan, it may bore you to death. If you really like college football and you care about that stuff and how potentially the sport could improve, it is an awesome read. If it is not your thing, you're going to get about 3 sentences and it'll be out. But I know college football fans do like this podcast, especially when you start picking games. It is August. I cannot wait to unload on some picks coming up. I see you. You guys are coming back to fast forward to the picks. That's okay. Embrace it. I cannot wait to fire off some picks for college football at the end of the month here. But one of the things that caught my eye was the suggestion that bowl games should be moved to the first week of the season. Now, you hear that suggested out loud, you're like, that's not what we get. Like, bowl games are at the end of the year. But there's never been a time in the history of college football where bowl games have been more meaningless than right now. When you got invited to a bowl back in the day, some college football fans would say, gosh, they actually meant a lot because if you stayed undefeated and you won the Orange Bowl or Rose Bowl, you'd be voted the mythical #1 national champion. Okay. Like, what about the other ones, though? Like, that was your championship? In some ways, is that same selling point, we'll say, to teams who don't qualify for a tournament. And I'm pro expansion, by the way, for playoff. I think we'll look back in this and still wonder why we didn't. But the idea of a bowl game in week 1 is kind of cool. I remember as a kid going to the Kickoff Classic. Syracuse taking on Wisconsin. It was McNabb. It was like 95 degrees out. Ron Dane was in the backfield. Kevin Johnson ran back the opening kick. And
Then Meadowlands? Yeah, the Meadowlands was called then. Syracuse and Georgia Tech, I believe they tied in that game when ties were still in college football. Salve's own Joe Kovaleski was on the team. So I've been to a few kickoff classes, and it's cool. Like when you have something different around the game. And we've seen some catchy titles around some of these games. Like I think it's like the Texas kickoff, Oklahoma State and Arkansas was in one, USC and Alabama a few seasons ago. So look, they've added ways in which they can call that opening game of the season something, sometimes a brand. I know Coke Zero worked their way into week 0, which is the ultimate branding move. So shout out to them for actually getting a week to promote yourself like that. But the idea of college football games having someone to play for out of the gates is really cool. Like a certain game you want to play for, and it could be a benefit from the next season. You get the seniors fired up. Hey, we're going to get maybe regional stuff too. A Georgia Tech Clemson on a Monday night might not sound that exciting, but what if it's someone close to you? I'll even take it a step further. This bowl game scenario is actually a better idea for the FCS level than the FBS level. Why is that? Because there are some FCS schools that will not qualify for the NCAA tournament, an expanded field in comparison to the FBS. But if you tell some of these FCS schools the week 1 of the season they get to play against some of these teams within their state, the guys who said they weren't good enough to play at that school, oh, that alone feels like a bowl game. Like Albany gets Baylor coming up. Back in the day, you used to see other schools play a notch above and see if they could shock somebody, right? App State, Michigan's the first one that jumps everybody's mountain. North Dakota State going out and beating teams. I like the ideas of something for week 1. Call it a bowl game, have a trophy, move more rivalry weeks to new rivalries. Let me rephrase that because that's important. New rivalries. I do like the idea of the old school traditional rivalries in October and November, but make week 1 mean something for these schools because for so long, a lot of schools avoided scheduling really good non-conference teams because they wanted to stay undefeated, but the world's changed. Conference championships and an expanded playoff field can help that. Because what other scenario do you got to fix the bowl games now? There's a really good quote in there that talked about why bowl games are actually in the end of the season. It'd be nice to say it's because of the players. It'd be nice to say because it gives a reward for players. That's really not it. The college football season ends in late November. The reason they have the bowl games that final week of December, those final 10 days into New Year's Day, is because it's a great travel time. Traveling during the holidays is difficult for some people. Other people, they love to do it. But if you tell a community in a city, hey, we're going to draw people into our town for this holiday week, here's a way in which we can do it, that's a selling point for the city. So that's why you don't see that more often in August and September, those early weeks, is because people are enjoying their final weeks of the summer and Labor Day before they got to go back to work and school and don't have as much vacation time. And the weather's not as nice. That's why December has been the standout time for bowl games. That city wants that income to come in. They want people to spend that final post-Christmas, pre-New Year's Day money, or even New Year's Day money in their city. I like bowl games. I like something meaning something that first week. And I can't figure out a better idea to make bowl games mean more than with that idea. Before we get into the fight talk this week, including Ric Flair's last match, UFC recap of what it means for the future of that sport, and also Summerslam of the new era of Triple H. A lot of good fight sports coming up this conversation. Before we get to it, we got to tell you about the people that make the show possible. We hope that you go out and support these great sponsors because without their help, well, Gozilla Media is in a different spot. We love these guys. If you like our content, we hope you can go out, whatever it might be, to support these great people like
Mohawk Honda. If you're looking to trade in your vehicle this summer, the spot for you to do it is Glenville, New York. It's a wild time right now with the supply chain where you can be trading in your vehicle and getting back the same price that you originally bought for it years ago. That's right. Mohawk Honda can do that for you right now. You stop and you say hello to the great staff, and they can take care of you. I know from experience, the pilot's sitting in the driveway. I got to have the summer road trips and more with Mohawk Honda. Now you can have that same bragging right. This is the time to do it. I don't want you to stall. I don't want you to wait. Well, maybe I should. Maybe I shouldn't. How hard is it just stop into Mohawk Honda, make the drive wherever you live across upstate New York, and find out the price you can get for your vehicle? You don't want to think back months from now and years from now, if I had just done it in the summer of 2022, I would be in a different spot right now. Don't have those regrets. make the move. Check them out on social media. Nick and Nate always doing a great job about the new vehicles that are in line. You can get yourself into a 2023 ride just by stopping into Mohawk Honda and having money in your pocket. Mohawk Honda, Glenville, New York. We love the people. We love the maintenance, the sales, everybody over there. You're not going to have that same bragging right for yourself. Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you. And our friends over at Lily and David Fine Jewelers, located at the Shoppes of Wilton, Route 50. I cannot believe this day marks the 5th anniversary of when I proposed to my wife. Social media, always a nice reminder of when those great moments in your life happen. I remember it. Where did I stop in? Lily and David Fine Jewelers, sweating, nervous, not quite sure exactly what I was going to do, what I was going to buy, what fit my budget. I had a little bit of an idea of that. But the staff there at Lily and David Fine Jewelers walked me through that process of exactly what she's looking for, how to do the proposal, and I'd make sure those 2-for-1 wedding band sales are going to be coming in the future, and make sure she's getting compliments on that ring you're about to buy. Guys, that ring is always there. That moment is always there. Make sure you get it right. The proposal, like I know from experience, may not go exactly as planned, but you can always get it right with the ring. The family-owned and operated business, Alyssa, David, and the crew will help you find exactly what she is looking for. Route 50, the Shoppes of Wilton, is the spot for you. The selection is fantastic. They'll definitely have what you're looking for, and they'll help you find what fits your budget and to make those memories for years to come. Alyssa, David, the whole crew, shout out to them. Love working with them. It's Lily and David Fine Jewelers, Route 50, the Shoppes of Wilton. Stop in.
When you get in there, tell me you heard about Gaz's story from right here on Gaz on the Go. All right, let's talk about the big fight weekend. Let's start off with UFC 277. We're skipping to the main event again. I'm sure there were some decent performances on the undercard, and social media probably got fired up about a big blow, a big hit, something that. Let's focus on what we're going to remember about it. Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes puts on one of the great women's fights of all time. The moment, a bloody Pena, the champion in the ring, the former champion Nunes going for the title. When it's all said and done, it's Amanda Nunes regaining her championship, which is a rarity when you don't see a knockout happen, whether it be boxing or the UFC. A really good fight by both women. And it sounds weird to say this. Even though Pena does not regain her championship and Nunes is the winner, that's great for the UFC's future. Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena, round 3, the rubber match, the trilogy, now for me has become pay-per-view. Now for me is, all right, let's do it. Let's get it. I'll watch that. It's going to be a fight of the year. We saw the most recent trilogy in boxing. It was Wilder and Fury, even though it was a draw in fight 1 and Fury got him in fight 2. Some would argue he beat him in fight 1, 2. That doesn't matter, though. Statistically, it was a draw. Nunes and Pena round 3 could be one of those great all-time UFC fights because now it's about legacy. It's about who's the better fighter, who really deserves it. You think Ali Frazier 3 is too strong of a comparison, but you know where I'm going with this. It's better for the sport that we're going to see that one more time, and I hope we get to see it one more time. Dana White's been interesting because there's been some rivalries and some big fights we never saw a rematch for, but if he believes this is the best for the women's game, let's do it, Dana. Don't hesitate. Make it happen. Put these two back inside the octagon to duel it out one more time because think about this, men or women. Men or women. What's the fight you want to see right now? I'm thinking about it. Connor's not coming back. There's rumors that he's going to fight Floyd Mayweather a second time. I mean, I'm good. Like, right. I just wasted 30 seconds. I feel like Drake on one of his little tracks just stalling for 30 seconds on a podcast thinking about who should fight in the UFC. It doesn't happen. Pena, Nunes. If you put that on the 2023 card, for me, that is my most must-buy pay-per-view of 2023. Before AEW fan yells at me and says I'm not giving him enough love this week, I'm leaving the logo up on our video sign because I want to talk about Ric Flair's last match. Something I would not have paid for. Something that I not a single dime would have gone to me for. To Conrad Thompson and everybody else who hyped this thing up and made it happen, from a business sense, from a podcaster to podcaster who does this for a profession and a living and has monetized it, a bravo, a clap. I feel like someone's up with my mic, so I won't even clap into this right now. But from that angle, congratulations. But what a mockery of Ric Flair's career when we do shit like this. What are we doing? Like, Ric Flair had one of the great sign-offs of all time, one of the great last matches of all time with Michaels kicking him, the I love you, like the whole thing was so good. That wasn't enough for Flair. Like he needed to do it again. I hate to compare him to The Undertaker, but like you've heard my Undertaker takes before, like The Undertaker had the whole thing he needed. Final Mania match, goes off, steals the moment away from Reigns, makes it all about himself, and then he's still not done. He's got to come back. Please tell me, hold my feet to the fire, ridicule me that if I ever decide to retire and I come out of retirement, I should be blasted. Maybe it's the Mike Francesa stuff or audio, radio, podcast guys, and people say they're over, they're done, and they come back. You know, like Kiss has done this like 15 times. Boxers do this all the time. Why does the Ric Flair thing bother me more? Maybe it's because like we all knew, like they didn't even try to hide it. Yeah, Flair's going for a paycheck. Flair, I guess, has had enough divorces and lives a Ric Flair lifestyle where he needs the money. It's not the wrestler. We're not talking about Mickey Rourke's character from that great movie. But it did nothing for me. Old guy gets paid and finds a new way to have a revenue stream in the internet in 2022. Okay. Cool. Like I wish I could do like a study on him. Like egotistically, is it just the world of wrestling? They can't live without that stuff anymore. That he just is willing to sell because he needs that money that bad. AEW fan, I'm sorry I didn't give your love for your program more. I want to talk more about Hook. Wardlow, where the hell is MJF? There's still really good stuff left on the bone out in AEW, but Ric Flair stole your guys' time this week. And SummerSlam closes us off. Shout out to everybody who's part of our SummerSlam coverage this year. It is the first pay-per-view that it's post Vince McMahon. According to all the reports, Triple H running the creative. Got a great opening match with Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. Reigns and Lesnar had a unique finish I've never seen before. Logan Paul, man. I cannot believe I'm leading off with Logan Paul in this. He is that dude. I'm telling you. That match with The Miz, if you want to give Miz credit and love for how he pulls that match off, being a veteran in the ring and making sure a guy who's basically wrestled, that's a second match on a second biggest show, arguably for the WWE, has a match like that and doesn't kill himself. I mean, like, seriously, like, really, really hurt himself and doing moves. And he's able to help him also because that Baron Corbin and Pat McAfee match did not get the hype it got at WrestleMania because, and I know he wrestled Theory and McMahon and everybody else, but didn't feel the same. Corbin had to help McAfee out a little bit more. Pat might want to slow down for the first time in his life, even though he is the man. He got the theme music. But back to Logan Paul. Think about people who have come into professional wrestling who have had the impact, whether you grade it rating-wise, social media impact-wise, engagement-wise, like Logan Paul. Lawrence Taylor, main event at WrestleMania with Bam Bam Bigelow. Some people aren't proud that was the main event. Ronda Rousey's been awesome. But the biggest criticism you can have for Ronda Rousey and the Ultimate Warrior, not so much the Ultimate Warrior, I should say Kurt Angle. Like, Warrior hopped in there because it was so fast, the rise to stardom. But Angle, Ronda, LT, I guess Ken Shamrock should be in this conversation too. A lot of UFC wrestler types. They didn't have the ability to be charismatic and be on a microphone like Logan Paul can. A true superstar, a true entertainer, making people love or hate you. That guy's got a gift when it comes to that. There's a reason that dude's got 27 million followers on Instagram, and it's a whole different audience coming in to watch him. Maybe no pro wrestling fan ever in the house, but Logan Paul's doing what? I'll watch that. So he was one of the dudes who jumped out to me. Judgment Day, I'm still a little iffy on what that future's going to be. I think they should let Rhea Ripley run that thing. But overall, I don't have many complaints about SummerSlam at all. And maybe that's the future of the Triple H era. And that's what I've seen the most of. Wrestling fan loves to complain. Maybe more so than any other sports fan base. They love pro wrestling fan to complain about stuff. And Vince McMahon has been the target of their complaining. The old man doesn't get it. He's out of touch. None of this shit makes sense. Now Triple H all of a sudden shows up, tightens up the ship for SummerSlam, tightens it up for Monday Night Raw, and you're thinking, whoa, like this is different. I'm not a Triple H guy. Never been a fan of him. Thought he's a bit overrated, but I cannot deny the passion he has for the business, and I have zero complaints over the last 2 days. Like, if you want a little bit more hardcore stuff, you might find it. You want a little bit more, like, basic indie stuff. When I'm talking about indie, I mean, like, just straight up wrestling with a fan, super indie, like Gargano and Ciampa and everything. Okay, like I think Triple H is going to be able to find exactly what people are looking for, and he's not going to be as stubborn. Now, those are the ideas of what Triple H could do, and I feel like that's been the take of everybody's take. But just like a coach who was an assistant for a while has become the head coach, he will have more responsibilities. It's not like everybody Triple H has ever loved is not going to be a starter on the team, for another cross-sport comparison there. Somebody who Triple H liked is going to get on the field. There are going to be people that you really like that still aren't title holders. You're like, whoa, what's Hunter doing? I thought he was supposed to be my guy. Why isn't he pushing so-and-so? There's going to be a lot to this, but if you are a wrestling fan, the world has changed. Things that make more sense are making more sense. Your voice does matter. And get ready, because I thought last year was an awesome summer of wrestling. We got an awesome another one. A couple more weeks on the way. All right, this week's Gods in the Go. All the sports talk you need from the week in less than 40 minutes. Football's creeping back in. Some awesome baseball storylines. It's been a great week. Talk to y'all again next week.